Hi, welcome to this week's episode of the Retirement Readiness Podcast. This week, we're talking about all things interest rates. Here we go.
The Retirement Readiness Podcast with Tim Regan and Katie Umland. Presented by Prairie View Wealth and Tax Advisors. Live your 2 life.
We could even just say all things interesting, right?
Interesting.
That's just us.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And so are interest rates.
Yes.
So interesting.
So interesting. So interesting.
It really is. It really is an interesting topic that people kind of don't know a ton about, besides that they don't like it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't like to pay interest. Well, and I think I always go back to, we had a cousin and he usually listens to the podcast, so I won't call him out by name. But when he was in college, we went to visit him at his apartment. He had this big TV on the wall. And this was before TVs were like $300 for, a 100-inch TV.
Yeah.
And we're like, what are you doing? He's like, $50 a month, man. That's all it is. I got
for the rest of my life.
That's right. It's $50 a month. It's like, so we have to have this TV. And so I think that a lot of times, like when people are younger, sometimes they maybe don't think about all the way, what are the ramifications to have, borrowing money, having those payments, what's an interest rate mean type of thing. But I think even as people get older, we get a lot of questions as people near retirement. Should I pay off my house before I retire?
Yeah.
There's a lot of confusion on what's the tax benefits. Like the number of times we have people say, I don't want to pay off my house because I'll lose my tax write-off is crazy. And so maybe just take a couple minutes and talk about everything from, I want to buy the new recliner at 0% for 24 months to should I have a 30-year mortgage type of stuff, and everything in between maybe would be.
Well, even good. Similarly, should I buy the recliner at 0%? Like Alex and I always talk about that. Like, hey, we have the cash to buy this. Should we put it on a credit card and get the points for a credit card versus, I feel like there's so many games to play with. Yeah,
for sure. And I think that probably starts with the first, the first decision tree. Am I thinking about financing this because I do not have the cash and that's the only way I can afford to have this item? Or am I thinking about financing it and trying to look at it from a strategic way to say, how can I kind of multiply my money and use somebody else's money for free or what have you? So I think that's kind of like first decision tree. And whenever you're going to borrow money, there's a number of things that I kind of like to think through as you're thinking about doing it. The first one is recognize that if you have to borrow money and there is an interest rate associated with it, you just increase the purchase price by a lot. And so the times when you go in and you're like, let's say, we'll have people maybe sometimes that will finance let's say a swimming pool in the backyard. And the way that they'll do it is sometimes those pool companies will offer, some sort of incentive for you to put that pool in. And they'll say, hey, pools are 30% off and we'll finance it. And we'll finance it at 7%.
Right.
Next thing you do the math and you just paid a lot more than full price to put that pool in the backyard. That's so funny.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. And so it's just funny how some of those things are. And so
all marketing.
It is. It really is. And it's marketing and it's making it easy for the consumer to say yes.
Yeah.
I think you and I talked about it just as a side tangent. We don't ever go on side tangents.
Never.
But I just heard a statistic that said that 40% of people in developed countries in the world will have their groceries delivered this week. 40%.
Mine is coming at 5 p.m. today.
Yeah, 40%.
Wow, that is a lot.
It's crazy.
A very high percentage.
And it's not because it's cheaper. It's because it's convenient. And so a lot of times what'll happen.
Thank you, COVID.
Yeah. How about it? And so a lot of times today, people will even go like that financing route because it's easy.
Sure.
I don't feel the pain of seeing my savings account go from a big number to a smaller number. So it's less painful, even though when I sit down and do the math, I'm way worse for having done it. And so kind of a few rules of thumb that we would start to think about. The first one is if you have to finance it and there's an interest rate involved, do the math. And if you don't know how to do the math, because that can be kind of a pain in the neck, it's not like super easy or something to do all the time. There are calculators online. You can just Google amortization calculator. And what it'll do is it'll come up with how much are you financing, what's your interest rate, what's your payment schedule? And then it'll calculate for you, here's the total amount that you're going to pay for that item. Here's how much you'll pay in principal. Here's how much you'll pay in interest. And now you can make a determination. Is it really worth, is that $100,000 swimming pool really worth $150,000 to me by the time I finance it?
This sounds like something that I don't want to do.
No, that's
like only look if you
Alex.
want to. Only look if you want to know that answer.
Yeah, make sure it's going to tell the story that you want it to tell before. Yeah, 100%.
Like, do you really want to know the truth about?
No, exactly. Do you want a swimming pool or do you want to know the truth?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so a lot of times, like even when you think about some of those decisions, there are those things that you have to do. You have to pay your mortgage or you have to buy a car. Sometimes your car goes out and you have no choice. But then there are some things, like I'll keep on the swimming pool example for a minute. There are some of those things like a swimming pool that really are lifestyle driven. And so like I think about when my kids were little. My kids were only little for this finite period of time. I could only have a swimming pool in my backyard and they grow up with a swimming pool for this finite period of time. And so if I can see a path to where I can put the swimming pool in the backyard and I can do it in a reasonable way that's not going to crush me financially, it might cost me a little more because I'm going to finance it, let's say, but I'm buying years. Maybe that's still a trade-off that I'm willing to make because I get to have kids that grow up with a swimming pool, and I'm willing to say, to just have a swimming pool is worth $100,000. But for me to have a swimming pool that my kids can have for the rest of memories for the rest of their lives, and they grew up at the pool, that is worth $150 to me because of that. Because I'm not buying a pool anymore. I'm buying lifetime of memories with my kids. And so again, that's a slippery slope. You can, kind of rationalize yourself into anything. But when you think about how do interest rates work at the core, it is just a way that takes what you would have to write a check up front for and breaks it down into monthly payments. But if you're doing that, somebody still has to write the check up front. Even the swimming pool company has to buy a pool, pay their people. Like somebody's writing the check up front. And so that's why they're saying, if you're going to use my money, you're going to have to pay me to use my money. And that's where kind of those interest rates start to come in. So decision one is, can I write the check or do I need to finance it? If I need to finance it, then I have to do that in a way that is the lowest cost possible. And how do I start kind of negotiating that in my mind, and what does that look like? It's just one of the things that I would start with. The second piece, Katie, kind of goes to your question around, we have the cash. I don't need to finance it. Now what do I do? And there it's exactly what you and Alex are thinking about. It's how do I get the most out of my dollar? My answer is always, 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 and Dave Ramsey would probably want to strangle me, but I would say always, 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 if you have the cash, put it on a credit card first. Anything you can possibly do, because you're going to get points on that credit card. And as long as you pay the credit card off every month, didn't cost you a dime to do it. Now, don't miss that payment.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the part that sometimes gets hard, is to make sure that you always, always, always pay it off at the end of every month.
I think that's would be a fun future episode of like, take some of these top financial gurus and like what their strategies are and just talk about them.
Yeah.
And like, what do we agree
Pros,
with?
cons.
What do we not?
Yep.
Because I think we hear that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah. And I called out Dave Ramsey. I'm not really a Ramsey like expert, but I know that one of his big things is never use credit, all cash, all that kind of stuff. And I think that that's really good when you are not
climbing
super
out,
strong.
maybe. Yeah.
And not super strong in being disciplined with your money. Like those are good rules to live by. But as you get a little more sophisticated, and as you have a little more diligence in how you're managing your money, there's no reason to, if I'm paying cash anyway, I can write a check today or I can write a check in 30 days. But if I write a check in 30 days, then I get all of these points or all of this benefit from doing it. And I get to keep my money for an extra 30 days. That's kind of like finance 101. Accelerate your receivables, get your money as soon as you can,
Mm-hmm.
and delay paying as long as you can, so you keep control of your money longer. And so, anytime you're going to buy something, if you can, even if you can write the check, take the free money if you can take the free money.
So kind of expanding beyond that of like when you start having to pay back things. So like, do you have some like hard and fast rules about what you should be paying back first?
Yeah, 100%. So you want to look and see. So let's say that in your house, you have a mortgage, you have a couple of car payments, and you have student debt, or student loan debt. You should look and kind of stack all of those up and say, what is my highest interest rate debt that I have right now? So usually in those three, it's going to be your student loans,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to be your cars, then it's going to be your mortgage, many times. Although today, as we're seeing interest rates that have come up in the last number of years, we're seeing that kind of switch where that home mortgage might actually be higher than some of those other debts. And so what you want to do is you want to look and say, uh, what's the actual cost of me borrowing this money, and start throwing any extra dollars you have towards the highest rate first. So when you think about that, if you have, let's say you have the same $1,000 borrowed in money, $1,000 on student loans, $1,000 on your mortgage, $1,000 on your car. If your mortgage or if your student loans are at 10%, that means it's costing you $100 to borrow that money for that year. If your mortgage is at 6%, it means it's costing you $60 to borrow that $1,000 for this year. And then if your car loan is at say 2.9%, it means it's costing you $29 to borrow that money for that year. So when you look at that and you say, do I want to spend $100, $60, or $29? Well, I definitely don't want to pay $100 any longer than I have to.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start paying down the one at that 10%.
I know one mistake I made for way too long is not looking into my student loans more.
Yep.
I was just paying what I was supposed to pay every month, not realizing that it wasn't set up to pay the highest percentage,
highest rate first. Yep.
I just thought, oh, I'm paying my student loans. And one day, it was before Alex and I got married. Obviously, otherwise this wouldn't have happened because he just would have known to do that. But I just was like, man, my student loans are just not going down. Why are they not going away?
Yeah, for sure. Because a lot of it, when you do it that way, you're not making hay enough to pay down the ones with those bigger rates.
It was I was paying just as much as I was owing.
Yes.
Or accumulating. And so, I didn't realize like within the student loan, there was several
layers
to that. And one of them was like the highest interest rate, and it was not the one that was being.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, and Alex would have told you, Katie, on my third spreadsheet that I just
did not be.
And so, so let's talk a little bit about that, right? And so when you think about even like student loans, be specific, like open up your the website and look at all of the student loans and which ones are at what interest rates. There's also places that you can talk to, and this is it's funny how this works. You can refinance some of those student loans, but you want to be careful because there are some federal government programs where they say if your student loans were taken out before this date, but after that date, you can like kind of pay based on your income or pay based on different factors, which can lower that payment and lower interest paid overall. And so right now, that student loan world is a really confusing place. And what I think what happens is there's so much talk and so much emphasis put on, how much student loan debt do you have? And should we forgive some of it? It's kind of distracting people from making really good decisions about those student loans because it's such a complicated puzzle. My suggestion is sit down with somebody who knows student loans, that's their specialty. They can really help you kind of map out what's the right strategy here, because
who would that be? Like somebody at a bank?
Not necessarily. No. I mean, I'd say reach out to a financial advisor. I mean, the financial advisor's office should have somebody internally that could help you.
Okay.
That could help you do that. Because what happens is, and I'm going to call them, it'll be a word maybe people don't hear in everyday language a lot, but a tranche. What a tranche means is it's a group of money or a specific part of money. So, like my freshman year of college, I have one tranche of loans,
Okay.
and those loans were at a given interest rate. And then my sophomore year was a different tranche of loans, and those loans could be at a different interest rate. So when you're talking about, I thought it was just paying down the highest one first, or didn't know there was a strategy there. That's what's happening. Like you have these different types of loans and different parts of loans, and then you can get into, there's the federal loans, and then the subsidized loans, and
Yeah.
then I got Parent Plus loans, and I got, like, just go down that list, right?
And the student might have some, and the parents.
And the parent, and yeah.
So it's
And then what happens is, depending on when you took that loan out, depends on what you qualify for ways to repay it. And so it's gotten really messy, really confusing. But if you use that as the example, that's how you should approach all of your debt. You should sit down, be very specific, create a spreadsheet that just says, okay, I owe money here, 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 and here. Here's my interest rate. Here's how long I have to pay it off. Here's what that payment is, just so you can have a sense for what you're really getting into.
I won't call myself out, but I am calling myself out.
But somebody somebody that
similar
might be,
to me, might look at all of those things and think like, it's too complicated. It makes me feel very nervous. I'm going to ignore it.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, for sure.
And that is what happened with my student loans.
Yeah.
And that's why it wasn't like I wasted so much time and money not just looking at
avoiding it.
Yeah, avoiding it. And like that, I mean, I think people could do that with, especially once you start kind of getting in over your head.
Yep. Well, and so let's kind of talk through that, because that's the same with everything in life.
Yes.
Like I need to lose 50 pounds.
Well, that feels like too much. And it's
yeah. And so, and where do I start? Like, well, everybody says you should eat this, or no, go on that diet, or work out this way. And it gets overwhelming. And it's like, it's way easier to sit down and eat a bag of chips while I watch a movie.
Yes.
Right? And so it's the same thing with your money. The idea is, don't let it be overwhelming, but you also have to have it organized or structured in a way that makes sense to you. And it can be really simple. It does not have to be complicated. But until you define it, you don't
know what you're working with. Yeah.
And so if you go through that same example of losing weight, like one of the first things you can do is keep a food log. If it crosses your lips, write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I didn't think about the fact that I put vanilla flavoring and 2 creamers in that coffee that took it from 0 calories to 300. I didn't think about the fact that after dinner I threw a Reese's peanut butter cup in my face.
Mm-hmm,
Like you just forget about those things. But then once you start writing it all down, all of a sudden it like clarifies and makes it more easy to digest. Same thing with any sort of loans or debt that you might have. Start by understanding what you have, organize it, and then we can make good decisions based on, what should we pay off and when.
I'm sure there's even, like you said, like Google amortization calculator. I'm sure there's even like Google repayment spreadsheet, or, like I'm sure that there are so many
100%
tools at your fingertips online. If you don't know how to set something like that up.
Yeah. Well, and maybe we should just take a second, and talk about chat with us, because I see so many people now, like it's on their phone, they're talking to it. It's like, hey, let me just go to chat and like have chat build this out for me. And could just be very careful that you're not putting your numbers
uploading.
Like you're talking about, like even in chat, if you're saying I have student loan debt of $50,000 at this place with the, like, don't, because now that's not secure, and you're making yourself vulnerable there. But it's very easy to go through and say, chat, I have student loan debt, and I'm looking to put together a schedule that will help me to organize it. I have 5 different loans. Can you build me a spreadsheet that would do that type of a thing? Pardon me. Which then would allow you to have the framework without putting your personal details in, right? So just a disclaimer there, or PSA. So kind of get organized and understand what you have. But then let's go back to talking about the decision tree.
Right.
How do I know if I should finance or if I should not finance? So if we just use cars as an example. My rule of thumb is if you can finance the car for 2.9% or less, finance the car. If it's going to get over 2.9, then we have to do some math and say, what does that
Why
look
2.9?
like? Because if you think about what you can earn outside of that investment, we can handily beat 2.9 in an after-tax return that where it makes sense to keep your cash and have it invested than to wait. You start getting like at 5%. Well, now by the time you try to outpace that 5%, you could maybe get 7% or 8% on your money. But then the risk you're taking to get that, and by the time then you pay taxes on those earnings, the spread just isn't worth the what you're gaining. And so rule of thumb, if you're buying a car, 2.9% or lower, consider financing. If it's above that, try to avoid financing, or at least let's have a conversation. And while we're talking cars, a car is an asset that depreciates over time. Like there's never been somebody, well, let's just get into collectors, but if we talk about just kind of that everyday
Daily
car,
driver,
nobody buys a car, holds on to it for 5 years, and makes money in that transaction. And so whenever you're borrowing money, try not to borrow money on things that lose value. Because now what you're saying is I'm going to pay an increasing price for it because I'm paying interest. At the same time, the value of that thing is going down. And so along that line, if you're buying a car, even if it's at 2.9%, or if it's at zero, I would argue never finance over 60 months. Now you see these car dealers that are like 84 months, 96 months. Like
that's a mortgage.
It is. No, exactly. Exactly. And what will happen is it seems like a good idea at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Your payment is low. You can afford it in your budget. All of a sudden, the car that you're like, man, I couldn't afford this model. Now I can. Well, what's going to happen is that car, when you need to go get a new one, most likely it's not going to last you 96 months before you need a new one. And if it does, you're lucky. If it doesn't, you're going to go to trade it in and you're going to be upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Now you owe more on the car than the car is worth because, again, it's depreciating in value. And now you have to take that accumulated debt and try to roll it into the next car, which means, guess what? You can't afford the next one either. It's even harder to afford. And it creates a snowball effect that is no bueno. So
2.9 and not over 36 months?
60.
60
not
months.
Over 60 months. Yep. And if the interest rate is low, it's okay to go 60 months. If the interest rate is high, try to go 36 because the longer you spread it out, the more interest you're going to pay as you pay down that vehicle. And same thing with mortgages. A lot of times what happens with mortgages, let me back up for a second. The interest you pay on your mortgage has some deductibility for you on your tax return. And so people always think, and they may hear, mortgage debt is good debt, consumer debt is bad debt. As a rule of thumb, if I get to choose, do I want to borrow money against my house or do I want to borrow money against my car? Borrow money against the house. But that's not saying any debt is necessarily good, right? Being debt-free is always a good thing as well. But what happens is with your mortgage, some of your interest payments can be deducted from your tax return. So people get this idea that it's a tax savings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to pay off my mortgage because then I'll lose this tax savings.
Well, there's no way you're getting more from your tax write-off than you're paying
in actual interest.
Actual interest.
Yes. And so what happens is you never pay more in tax than you make. And you never save more in tax than you pay.
Yeah.
And so yes, you do get some benefit from that. And so if my choice was, I'm going to pay off my mortgage or I'm going to pay off my car, then you're right. You don't want to pay off your mortgage. You want to pay off your car first, or your student loans or those things. But if you have the money and you're like, man, I don't want to pay off my mortgage because I don't want to save on taxes. Wrong answer. No. It's never a bad answer to be debt free. Now, that being said, there's a lot of people that are still walking around with, myself included, mortgage rates when they're down in the twos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sarah and I we're fortunate. We locked into a refinance where our mortgage rate is like 2 7/8, which I'm like, she wants to move. I'm like, it's killing me to think about moving
giving that up.
and giving that
Yeah.
up. And so a lot of times the question people have is, should I refinance or when do I refinance? Whenever you go to refinance, there will be costs in the refinance.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do an appraisal. You have to pay closing costs. There's all these costs associated with it. So as a rule of thumb, if you can save 0.75% or more on your interest rate, then you should consider refinancing. Still do the math, but you should consider refinancing. If you're going to save 0.25 point, not worth it for all the other expense that you're going to have to go through. And so we a lot of times we'll have people that are saying, well, I don't know, should I refinance now? Should I wait? Don't play that game. Just keep it as a math problem. If I'm going to save 0.75 of a point or more, I should consider refinancing. And a lot of times we'll have questions around, should I go for a 20-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage? Again, that's kind of interest rate driven, with the idea that it's never bad to be debt free. And so in general, the shorter term I can pay it down, the less I'm going to pay in interest, the better off I'm going to be long term.
Now, what about people again, I'm not going to call myself out, that move every few months.
You move more frequently than you change your underwear. What do we do with those people?
No, but for real, if you think, oh, there's a chance we're going to move in 5 years.
Yep. So if that's the case, so there's different types of mortgages you can take out. There are fixed rate mortgages, and then there are variable rate or adjustable rate mortgages. You may have heard on the radio or seen when you go to buy a house that they'll say, oh, you have a 5-year ARM or a 7-year ARM. Sounds fancy.
Mm-hmm.
All it means is adjustable rate mortgage. That's the ARM part of it.
Okay.
So with a fixed rate mortgage, typically the bank is saying, we're going to give you this interest rate guaranteed for the life of your mortgage. It can never go up. That's the fixed part of it. It won't go down either, but it can never go up. So as the bank goes to do that, they have to guess what are interest rates going to do over 20 or 30-year time periods. And so they typically charge slightly higher because they're locking their money up for that length of time. What an adjustable rate mortgage does is it says, we're going to lock in your interest rate, but we're only going to lock it in for maybe the next 5 years or maybe the next 7 years. That's the 5-year ARM or the 7-year ARM. Once that 5 years or 7 years is up, you don't know what interest rates are going to be. So if we think interest rates are going up, you could be at a much higher rate than you are currently. However, because the bank gets to a redo in 5 or 7 years, those interest rates tend to be lower than the fixed rate for 30 years. And so typically what we would say is, if you have a pretty good sense that you think you're moving in the next 5 to 7 years, you go with an ARM. Pay as low interest rate as you can because you know you're doing something different in that time period anyway. Now, just to walk through kind of how mortgages work, what happens is you have what's called an amortization schedule. Again, a big word. All it means is there's a schedule for every payment you make, how much goes towards principal, how much goes towards interest, and it lasts over this period of time. So you can have a 30-year amortization schedule, which just means we mapped out all your payments over 30 years. You borrowed $200,000, you're going to pay it off in 30 years. Your adjustable rate mortgage can still have that 30-year schedule, just like your fixed rate does. It's just adjust the rate at 5 or 7 years. And so your payment would look very similar. It's just you're taking a little bit of that risk on the interest rate side that the bank in the fixed rate assumes. You assume it on the adjustable rate mortgage part.
So, you're always hearing things about the housing market and prices on houses are crazy right now, and interest rates are high or interest rates are low. But they kind of balance each other, right? If you have a low interest rate, you're probably paying more on your house, or your house cost or house price is so high that they have to give a low interest rate.
Yeah, 100%. What happens is, exactly to your point, homes, more than almost anything else, are monthly payment driven. And so when you think about how much can I afford in a house, you don't think about writing a check for $800,000.
Right.
You think about, can I afford a $3,500 a month payment? Well, if that interest rate, to your point, if interest rates are higher, my $3,500 a month payment equates to a $700,000 house, not an $800,000 house. Those prices naturally start to come down. So 100%, you're absolutely right, because like I said, houses, almost more than anything else, housing, even if you think about apartments, people break those down into a monthly payment
Mm-hmm.
more than they break it down into what am I actually buying for paying for that house.
And like, what kind of drives that?
Drives what? Drives the interest rate?
Interest rate, like how,
Yeah.
what comes first, interest rates or housing?
Interest rates.
Okay.
Interest rates drive it. So what happens is, because the way that an interest rate is kind of constructed, if you will, for all kinds of different stuff, the Federal Reserve sets a federal funds rate. Basically, it is an interest-free rate that banks use to loan money back and forth to each other. They call it a Fed's fund rate because you'll have a bank, let's say, that has we'll take a step back. So banks have reserve requirements. It means I have this much money out in loans, this much money in deposits. I have to keep this much cash available to my bank
Mm-hmm.
to match all those things up.
So we don't have It's a Wonderful Life situation.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes. However, banks don't always get that right. And so what they do is they will loan each other money overnight to cover any shortfalls that they have. So bank A has too much money than they need, or more than they need. Bank B is a little light. So bank B says, hey, give me some of your reserve money so that I can make sure that I'm covered. Well, they charge a rate for that.
Mm-hmm.
The Federal Reserve sets that rate. That's the federal funds rate. So when you hear the Federal Reserve is increasing rates or decreasing rates, all they're setting is the rate that those banks charge each other for overnight lending to meet their reserve requirements. Okay. So that's why when you see the Fed raised rates or lowered rates, your mortgage don't change a whole lot, because that's not what they're controlling. But however, it does kind of trickle through the system, because if I have to borrow at a higher rate from you tonight, then in order to make money over here, I have to charge more in order for that to make sense. And so when you think about a bank and when you think about how do they come up with what interest rate they're going to charge, they're actually looking at another interest rate, which is how much money can I buy, let's say, a treasury bill for that. So debt from the United States government, you can invest in that. Those are treasury notes, treasury bills, things that you can buy and invest in. And you get an interest rate for that. That's considered the risk-free rate. They consider the federal government to be completely risk-free. They're not going out of business. I'll get my money back. Well, if I'm going to borrow, or if Tim Regan goes to borrow money, am I as creditworthy as the United States government? Probably not, right? Yeah, the way the government is now, maybe, but probably not. And so they say, well, I have to add a risk premium to that, because if my risk-free rate is here, I can just take my money, put it here, and I'm guaranteed this interest rate. If I go to loan it to you, I don't have the same guarantee. So I'm taking more risk. I'm going to charge you more money. And so as they go to do that, that's how they start setting rates. They say, okay, well, if I know I can get 3% in a guaranteed rate, I got to get 3+ in order to loan you money.
Sure.
And so now when you think about credit scores, that's where your credit score comes in and can really affect how expensive is it for you to borrow money. Because if I'm adding what they call a risk premium to that rate, well, the lower my credit score, the more risky I am. So the more I add in risk premium to that rate. So that's why it's really important to kind of manage your credit and keep an eye on what is my credit score, because that'll help you to pay as little as possible as you can in interest rate. So let's take that all the way back. I think that started with mortgage rates. How are they determined? And, is it house price or is it mortgage rate? So it all starts with the mortgage rate, because that is a fixed number that is set by external parties that banks are looking and saying, okay, we have this money to do something with because we have all these deposits. Where are we going to put it? Well, if I can get completely risk-free here, I have to get risk-free plus in order to borrow or in order to lend money to Katie and Alex or Tim and Sarah.
So how, this is like bordering on getting boring and like too in depth.
No, we said interest rates are interesting. Remember, we started the
if
whole.
If you say it, then it has to be true.
It has to be true.
But so what? Like when a president comes in and says, like, "Oh, I'm going to lower interest rates." Let's say, like, what levers are they?
They don't have very many levers.
Pulling, like,
they do not have very many levers. The only lever that they can really pull is if the Federal Reserve starts lowering that federal funds rate, which is that overnight loaning for the banks. That's really the only lever they have over interest rates. Now, there are market forces that can help to change that. For example, if inflation is high, people demand a higher interest rate on their money. So, and the reason for that is, if I have $1,000 and I'm going to the store to buy groceries today, my $1,000 buys me, this basket of groceries. What inflation means is that next year, if I want to buy the same basket of groceries, I better come with more than $1,000 because the prices on everything went up. Well, if I know that the price of things is going up by 4%, well, I need to have something that's going to make more than 4%. Otherwise, I'm falling backwards. I won't be able to buy the same amount of stuff. My money's not worth as much. And so that will cause interest rates to go up because people are demanding, I have to get a higher rate on this in order for me to invest in it because I know what my costs are going up at. And so a new administration can come in and they can try to affect change in some of those kinds of character, but they can't come in and just say, this interest rate is now this.
Yeah.
It's all market driven and market forces. So if we just kind of go back to the beginning and say, there's a decision tree here, and how do I manage my debt? Step one is this necessary? And do I have to finance, or am I choosing to finance? If I have to finance, then you have to work down the list of how do I finance it at the lowest rate on the most favorable terms, making sure that I don't overextend. I'm not financing the car for 96 months, financing it for 60. The wedding ring that I'm going to go propose and I got 0% at the jeweler, I make sure that I know the terms. And when the 12 months is up or the 24 months is up, sucker is paid.
Yeah.
Because if not, I'm going to have all this interest come back in.
Otherwise, they're going to come for that finger.
Yeah, they are. Take it. Just take it. Well,
might be better.
I would say, wait till you're married 30 years. You might. But yeah, and so it's, if I have to borrow to do it, then it's making sure I understand those terms and making sure that I'm paying as low of an interest rate as possible. And I'm not overfinancing. I'm not buying on a monthly payment. I'm buying based on good, solid numbers that I can also afford a monthly payment with. If you're sitting there and saying, I don't have to finance, I'm choosing to, then by all means, it is how do I maximize the money I'm going to gain by financing, and then make sure that I pay it off, so I pay no interest rate or interest charges on that over time. And then when I'm looking at longer term purchases, make sure that and how do I pay down that debt? It's make sure that you're being smart about highest interest rate first, then work your way down the list. Also make sure that you're not letting the kind of tail wag the dog. Oh, don't want to lose a tax deduction.
Yeah.
Even though I'm still paying more than I need to. And that's just kind of how we would suggest you start managing that. To your point with housing, if you know that you're going to be moving in the next handful of years, adjustable rate mortgages are great tools. Or if you think that interest rates are at a high point and they're going to come down, adjustable rate mortgages are a great tool. When interest rates were 3%, adjustable rate was not the way to go. You wanted to lock in as long as you could. And so, just to give you a feel for, do I do an adjustable rate or do I do that fixed rate mortgage? But all of those things should really come together in the building of your financial plan and how do I structure all of my debt and manage my debt.
Seems like a job for a financial advisor.
Well, it seems, but it really can be. It doesn't have to be that complicated, right? We can really make it pretty straightforward pretty simple. It just takes a little bit of organization and thoughtfulness in it.
Seems like you have to know a lot of passwords and logins.
Yes.
And
Well, and while we're talking passwords, if you're not using a password manager, like
now's the time.
Now's the time. Just take your time. Go look. There's NordPass. There's OnePass.
What about just like the iPhone? How it has like password generator.
They say that that's pretty protected,
Is
pretty
it?
easy. Is what they're saying. Almost as good as some of those other password keepers. The downside to that though is what happens when you want to do it on your laptop.
Yeah.
Right. And so for us, we use a password keeper at home. We also have one business wise. We use them internally to the business, and it's super easy. You don't have to have something written down somewhere. You don't have to try to come up with something that is memorable.
14 characters.
Yeah, exactly.
2 special characters.
Yeah. And so if you're not using a password keeper, get a password keeper. That's just a bonus. Bonus.
Not interest rates
not
related.
interest. No, but it is interesting.
Oh, jeez.
And so as we're recording this, we're coming up on Thanksgiving. We're on Thanksgiving
this week.
Yeah. And
I really snuck up.
What do you think kids and Twinskies are gonna think? Do they like parties, seeing the family? Do they get a little
They get
uneasy?
a little uneasy. It takes them a while to warm up, or sometimes you never know what you're going to get. They're still little. Like sometimes Dylan comes in so shy. Sometimes he comes in
hard charge,
extra wild because he's like doesn't really know how to act. Yet.
When he feels the nervous energy, like
exactly.
I feel like everybody has a little nervous energy going into those situations.
Yeah, and he can. So sometimes he'll come in like Yeah.
I heard Tim was over at your place yesterday morning before church. And,
had to help Alex hang a couple TVs.
Yeah. He said Dylan was there talking his ear off.
Yeah, he was. He had a lot to tell Timmy yesterday.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We're not so excited about Thanksgiving. We're excited to get through Thanksgiving because that means it's Christmas.
Well, and in the Umland house,
Christmas
it's a big deal. Yeah. Alex,
our lights are up outside already.
Well, but like for perspective, when did you put out the digital this many days till Christmas?
The day after Halloween. We put our countdown to when Santa comes.
Yes.
We thought that was super funny.
Yeah.
So we're excited. Almost all your kids are back.
Yes. Yeah. We got kids home. Lily and Andrew obviously will come back just for Thanksgiving.
For the day.
They'll be back, I think, probably Wednesday.
Okay.
It's funny. So it's so cool. Andrew and Matthew. So Andrew's Lily's husband.
In-laws, yeah.
And Matthew's Maddie's fiance. Those two, to put in perspective. So Matthew grew up completely blue collar in Wilmington, small town, is a union laborer. Andrew grew up in both parents are attorneys. He is white collar as they come.
Yes.
So like you picture these two very different individuals. They're the same guy. Yeah. They are the same person. You get the two of them together. Like, so in
nature
our house,
versus nurture.
it is it is unbelievable. Yeah. And so I believe that as with Matt and Maddie getting married, Andrew and Matthew are like on this whole thing. Like as soon as you mention the wedding, they're like Vegas. It's like an instant thing. Well, now we're talking about Wednesday before Thanksgiving. They're like Four Loko. And so I don't know what we have planned, but there will be a party at the Regan household. And we got kids coming.
That's so fun.
It is. It's a lot of fun. It's good to see them get along so well.
Yes. And that helps everybody.
It does. It does. Well, it's good that they're just part of the crew.
Yes.
Like we've always been a good, tight family. And so it's good to see that even as the in-laws are coming.
Yeah. Nothing's changing yet.
Nothing's changing yet. Yeah.
Okay.
So
it's those dang grandkids. That's what really puts a wrench into the.
Yeah. Well, where Sarah and I are at now, it's like at first this whole empty nest thing was not that awesome. Now we're like, wait, they're back.
They're back.
Like,
yeah.
The empty nest thing is kind of awesome. Like, and I love it. Like I think I've shared before, Sarah and I are on this bad kick where we're eating out like 4 to 6 times a week. Now all of a sudden I'm 4 to 6 times a week, but I have like 8 of
100
us.
people with you.
And we're all boozing. I'm like, this gets really expensive really
you
fast.
thought the holidays were expensive because of gifts, but it turns out it's because all the kids are home all the time.
Kids are home all the time. That's right, doing all of the things. So, but I wouldn't change it. It's really cool. So,
awesome.
All right.
Happy Thanksgiving week. For more resources, head to pv-wp.com.
The Retirement Readiness Podcast with Tim Regan and Katie Umland. Presented by Prairie View Wealth and Tax Advisors. Live your 2-comma life. Learn more at pv-wp.com. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Retirement Readiness Podcast on your preferred podcast platform.